Namaste friends. Today we are going to discuss international relations theories and we'll try to engage the dialogues and debate going on our contemporary world. So it's an interpretation, or you can say the analysis of what is happening around the world right now. If you observe subtly, you can find that the entire world is in a chaotic situation. There are different places the war is going on, skirmishes, there are conflicts like Ukraine-Russia war, like recently concluded or it's going on, like Israel and Hamas conflicts, skirmishes, and the humanitarian crisis over there. At the same time, a few months back, it was contention between Israel and Iran, and finally it was ended with the US bombarded nuclear arsenals of Iran, and later on Iran invaded, and there was exchange of missiles between Iran and Israel. In fact, you can find that the situation was very tense, and Israel sent missile to Qatar also, which was neutral country, but negotiating and helping to come for a conclusion. In the same time, we can find at our front also in South Asia also is highly disturbed, like recent development during the recent time. You can find that at the Durand line, Pakistan and Afghanistan, there are skirmishes and conflicts of interest. Almost over a million refugees of Afghanistan, they were sent to Afghanistan from Pakistan. And there are so many problems in South Asia also, West Asia also, Europe, Russia, Ukraine, and we are already visualizing different problems in Africa, like Sudan is facing problem, middle of Africa, and there was some military coup over also. So these all symbolizes that world is in very much chaotic situation. We will try to analyze the present contemporary world with our theory of international relations. We'll link our theories of international relations. At the same time, we will come with the viable solutions, that is with the Indian perspective. Whatever available resources available through Indian perspective, we'll try to judge like our Gandhi perspective, feminist perspective. And for the international relations, we'll engage the theories of realism, neo-realism, liberalism, neoliberalism, constructivism, feminism, and critical theories and approaches also like Marxism, post-colonial theories, and some other disruptive activities like AI, like cybersecurity, environmental degradation, like climate change. These are very much pernicious and very much important issues that will engage our today's discussion. So let's start with first the situation, the present circumstances that led the present scenario in the globe or contemporary world that become the chaotic, that is multipolarity and fractured globalization define the 21st century order. Nationalist resurgence. You can find that the arrival of the new president of USA, Trump, and Mr. Trump, he is always advocating for make US great again. And you can find the same type of slogan or same type of ideological underpinnings in the different part of the world, like is it China or Russia or India. There is a resurgence of rights in all the part of the globe. And when we observe subtly the global scenario through our realist perspective, that how much moral or ethical a country be, but when they have to take position, they go for their national interest. So when we analyze the present world through realist perspective, we can find that the national perspective, the national interest is the priority for almost all the country in the entire world right now. We can observe that there is an absence of global sovereignty, power, fuels uncertainty, and the competition. At the same time, India emerges as a moral anchor combining democracy, diplomacy, and development. India is very age-old civilization. We are culturally very rich, and we never go for any type of hegemonic power. We usually go for harmonizing the entire world. So India become ethically sound and morally principled that try to reconcile the problems of the world. And we have our Indic value system that help the globe to reconcile the conflicts and the problems of the world. Now we would like to faces of the global crisis right now, like hard security, Russia-Ukraine war, Israel-Hamas problem, and Israel-Iran contention, conflicts of interest, Taiwan flashpoints, transnational threats like climate crisis, cyber warfare, and the global economic fragmentation. These three problems, they are translational in nature. They are not confined to a particular country or particular continent. These problems are global problems, like the climate change, like environmental degradation or environmental crisis, like the problem of cyber warfare or cyber insecurity, like disruption or AI as a disruptive power, or global economic meltdown, like tariff war between India and China, US and the rest of the world, like US and China tariff war. US slapped so many huge tariff to the different countries like India. We are facing almost 50% or above tariff from US, and in the recent time we observed that in this quarter 37% of our export to US was plummeted. So this globally economic tariff war and trade deficit is the resultant of, in a way or two, transitional threat that is not confined to a continent or a country, but it is a transnational in nature. In the similar fashion, when we observe about the environmental or ecological crisis or changes, the entire globe facing the same problems. And ultimately, the powerful countries or the polluters, one who are responsible for polluting more, they have to take the responsibility also. So India advocates for the climate finance also. When we talk about the climate change, there is a way out for the climate finance. India always advocated, and in upcoming COP30, India will advocate for the same. So trade protectionism and sanctions weaponizing interdependence, humanitarian tragedies like Gaza, almost 70,000 innocent, which are not directly involved in the Israel and Hamas war, they were displaced, and many times they are vulnerable, especially children, women, old age person of Gaza Strip and the West Bank. They were facing humanitarian crisis over there. They are burning the bunch, whichever decision made by their brothers, Hamas, and Israel was so belligerent, they attacked and sometimes demolished also the entire territorial integrity of these persons, and they have to move out from those places. So these humanitarian tragedies like Gaza crisis, like ongoing Sudan war between Sudan and the Southern Sudan, reveal moral erosion, global governance, and we can try to find the solution, that is Indian ethical and moral values, our Indian principles, Indic principles, they can only come with the solutions. Now we move to try to interpret this socio-economic political situation of the globe or contemporary world through the eyes or through the lens of the theories of the international relation, global politics, national security, and diplomacy. Like the very much popular indigenous theory of international relation is realism. In realism, we find that the world is a chaotic place, and the very reason is being chaotic is that there is not a single supreme sovereign authority that can dictate or that can decide on behalf of all the countries. So every sovereign state independent, and they can decide on their own. And in that scenario, the nation interest of one or more than one countries, they clashes, and that's the reason of disruption or making the situation chaotic. So nation interest outweighs morality, power guarantees peace. Examples: Russia-Ukraine war invasions, so many reconciliatory situations and endeavors goes in vain, and still they are on war, they are fighting, like children. So at the same time, self-aggrandizing position like China go for CPEC, China go for BRI, and US tariff politics, these all are a part of nation interest. In some way they are power aggrandization, because realism talks about the power. India's realism, that comes with a solution, that is a strategic autonomy. First, every sovereign nation, they have autonomy, they can take a decision on their own for themselves. Every independent states of the globe, they have the power, they have the authority that they can decide on their own. Either it is war waging Russia or the victim Ukraine. So a strong defense and self-reliance, Atmanirbhar, is a very much part and parcel of Indian moral realism. There are some extension of realism, because realism couldn't manage to capture all the aspects of global or contemporary world faces the problems. So reconcile the conflict situations, or for the conflict management, conflict resolution, or peacekeeping, realism extended, that is called new realism. And some theoreticians like Mercimer, like Kenneth Walls, they come with their proponents. Like a structure determines behavior, power distribution dictates stability. And there is a phrase that comes, the balance of power. Balance of power that always brings solution for the hegemonies. They never allow anyone to be hegemonic or dominating power. So dominance of any one country, that can be diluted, that can be diffused by the balance of power. So India's engagement with the US, Russia, and the global South, they always go for the balance of power. Like during the Cold War, there are two blocks. Like capitalist, this country were with the US, and the other block was USSR, erstwhile USSR, that was disintegrated in 1991. And 15 CIS country was formed in Central Asia. So there are two poles, and that was the reason to make the world balanced. So this balance of power, or free the world from the hegemony or dominance, a solution by the neorealist like Kenneth Walls or Mercimer's. Security dilemma, drive arms build-ups, NATO expansions, like Indo-Pacific militarization. When we observe certainly our India's security policy, and we go for the modernization of our arms emissions, our very much rival Pakistan and China, they consider it, they get provoked. They consider that we are planning to invade them, or we are planning for war. That's not the truth. We are modernizing our arms and weapons. That is very much ongoing process, or very much common phenomenon in any country, the US or the war-waging country also, and neutral country also, or defensive country also like India. They usually go for modernizing their weapons. But in that context, the other country, the other rival country or the neighbors, because they can't change the territory, so they consider it that this scenario is a type of war race and a security dilemma. The defensive approach a country that provokes other country to go nuclear or to go for modernization of their wars and munitions, that is the simple reason that aggravate the situation and go for the security dilemma. India's strategic pragmatism, that is deterrence and dialogue, power guided by principles. India is very much morally, ethically sound in this context, that it always talks about the deterrence. And whatever the problem we face, that should be negotiated, that should be resolved through table talk or through the dialogue. So power guided by the principle is the very much part and parcel of our principle. Now we proceed to the next theory, that is liberalism, that talks about the cooperations between the nations. Liberalism envisions order through institutions, law, and trade. Different institutions like United Nations, WTO, and IMF, they remain pillars of despite legitimacy crises. You can realize that recent attack on Hamas, the entire Gaza Strip by the Israel, that was very much a concern of the entire world. And this belligerent stance of Israel was resisted by or flagged off by even many times. So many times they have a legitimacy crisis because they consider that it's their personal matter between the two countries and they will resolve, but they are not going to resolve it amicably through table talk or negotiation. They go for the war, they go for the arms ammunition solution, being violent, and there is no scope of violence in the 21st century world. Because when you go violent, we go belligerent, when you wage war, that's not a solution of any problem. That aggravates the problem again and again. And the sufferer, the victims, were always innocents, like children, like women, like age-old persons. They are the victims of this type of belligerent and the violent stances of global power when go for the war. So we find that even WTO or IMF, they come with the solution for the crisis, but many times they are not the supreme authoritative power. They have a legitimacy crisis also. India leads cooperative frameworks like G20 consensus. You have already well informed that India hosted G20 presidency in 2023, and at the conclusion on 9th and 10th of September 2023, the best part that New Delhi declaration of G20 that was amicably resolved the problems. At the same time, G20 countries and the members at the same time, United States, they have the consensus and declaration was accepted by all the nations. So that's a great achievement for India's ethical values, at the same time civilizational and cultural principles that was accepted. It was created in such a manner, prepared in such a manner that was accepted by all the member nations of the G20. Reforms needed: a global South inclusiveness, multilateralism for equitable governance. When we observe the world, certainly you can find that in the global South, like South Asia, Southeast Asia, our African countries, South America, they are poor. They are many members and population of these countries. They are in getting number, but they are suffering from so many problems, so many pandemic, disease. At the same time, they are facing poverty, unemployment, and natural crisis also. But they are endowed with so many resources, natural resources. So there is imbalance between North and South. So in a way, it is talked about that there is reform needed for the representation in institutions, regional and the international organizations like United Nations. There is no single country of in the United Nations from the Africa that represent a huge population, and that creates a crisis because they are considered voiceless. So there should be voice for the voiceless, and India is the torch bearer, hold the flag. India is the flag bearer, or India is the voice of the voiceless. India is the leader of the global South, or Vishwaguru. Now we move to the modified or the improvised, more inclusive approach of the new liberalism, that is neoliberalism. And we have the institution that bind more countries, like cooperation survives competitiveness through norms or interdependence, like India-EU FTA and South-South technological partnership. Shared institutions reduce uncertainty in trade, climate, and energy. India's diplomacy fuses liberal cooperations with ethical multilateralism. In the recent time, you can observe that India has gone for different type of free trade agreement with so many countries. And like in West Asia, we have FTA with UAE. We have many countries of Southeast Asia. We have FTA which is going on, and our Piyush Goyal, he is on front runner and negotiating on the table with the EU, and we go for the FTA. We have already signed FTA with England and some Scandinavian country also. That benefits because for the free flow of goods and services, and in a way it is a type of giving the cushion that whatever the tariff US slapping on India, and we are coming with a solution for running smoothly our trade and exports. So these shared institutions reduce uncertainty, trade, climate, and these institutions are very helpful in mitigating the problems very amicably. Now we move to the next theory. We have already discussed realism, neorealism, liberalism, neoliberalism. Now we are going to discuss about the constructivism, which engages the debate and discussion on ideas, identity, and meaning. We can observe the states, they are found very much organic. They are live in nature, and they are very much affected by human nature. So the nature of any state that are guided by the ideas, identity, and meanings. The interests are socially constructed. Identity shapes a foreign policy. India's civilizational and the vision inspired plural, non-hegemonic diplomacy, and norms evolve. Humanitarian sentiment and climate justice reshape the legitimacy. So India as norm entrepreneur, one earth, one family, and one future, that constructivist approach help India to lead a reconciliatory, cooperative, and inclusive approach with the proper justice. Now we move to the next theory of international relations, that is Marxism and post-colonialism perspective. So global capitalism perpetuates inequality, core dominance periphery. You can easily observe that the different countries of the South, global South, they are poor, they are facing rest, and they are unemployed. They are looking north for resources or industrialization or empowerment, emancipation of people. So global capitalism perpetuates inequality everywhere, especially in the South, global South. So and many countries, they are belligerent in nature, they are hegemonic in nature. They go for data trap diplomacy. You can find the BRI, the CPEC, and many South Asian countries like Sri Lanka, like Maldives, like Pakistan. They are entrapped by hegemonic power through data trap diplomacy. They have to lease their sometimes ports and sometimes some vital components of their country. They give on mortgage and they go for lease. So hegemonic power, they are very much ensnaring or entrapping these countries which are vulnerable. And this data diplomacy and resource extraction recreates colonial hegemony. A type of neo-colonial aspects can be easily visualized or envisioned in those countries. In South Asia, the policy of China, you can easily visualize that that forcibly the culture, society, people of many countries in South Asia, they are affected by Chinese hegemonic policy. So data diplomacy is very much crystal clear that the country which have power, which have resources, they are coming with their own terms and conditions, and they are dictating their terms and conditions, and they are ruling the poor countries or rich countries. Post-colonial reclaims agency for the global South intellectual traditions, and India's voice of the global South summit restores equality and the epistemic justice. As I already informed you during the discussion, that India is a very much principal country, and that is based on its cooperative or Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam principle. It always helps and doesn't have any type of preconceived notion or any type of ulterior motives. India advocates the growth of all. It goes for inclusive growth or rise of all, like principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and the thoughts and ideas that are very much inclusive in nature, and they are empowering the countries which are vulnerable, which faces some problems. Like during our global problem of pandemic, like COVID-19, India exported so many vaccines free of cost for the vulnerable country, whatever the country, the population they are facing during those times. So India always advocate, and in practice also morally and ethically with great humanitarian values. Now we move to another theory of feminism. Feminism is a theory that observe all the happenings of the surroundings through the lens of the eye of the women. So you can find that in any institution or any type of resource distribution, women are either they are ignored or they are not given the due share. So there is a need of gendering the society. Feminist in IR challenges militarized male-centric definition of the power. first, women are not usually the part of military services, but when the war, battle, or conflict, or the situation aggravated, they are the first line of sufferer. The children, the women, and the older person, they suffer a lot when war is waged. And they are not the part of militarization also. So they are ultimately sufferers. So the feminist approach, they have the question. At the same time, real security includes dignity, livelihood, and human well-being. There is very much uneven distribution of resources between male and female of the entire globe. And if they don't have resources, they are not entitled. Definitely, their dignity is compromised. Women can only feel dignified or lead a very much prestigious life with due respect when they have the equal right on the resources, and they have offered the equal opportunity also to be empowered and to lead the society and the people. And you can find that when women are given chance, they outshine the male also, because whatever the resources they are offered, or they can manage to save, they can manage to protect, and they try to empower their family. A male psyche is different. Usually male, they spoil their loans. Sometimes they go for the gambling, they go for the different type of bad habits like drink, smoking. But for female, they usually go for empowerment of their entire family. If a female is educated, she can easily make the entire family members very much well educated. We have our own indigenous Gandhian principle, which is based on India's values. Like Gandhi talks about ahimsa, satya, ahimsa, swaraj, sarvodaya, antyodaya, and trusteeship. Whatever the resources we have, that should be equally distributed, and everyone are the trustee of that. So our principles, Gandhian approach or Gandhian realistic approach, that will help to resolve the global so many problems of chaotic problems or conflict, and we have our ready-made solution. So in this manner, whatever the problem we are facing in South Asia, Southeast Asia, West Asia, India is the torchbearer and coming with the solution for the problems, even for the climate change also, or environmental degradation. Gandhi is considered one of the leading ecologists also. So Gandhi was so much visionary. He talks about that we can satisfy everyone's need, but not the greed. So one should very much associated with own principles, and they should be very much righteous in their principles. So I can tell at the conclusion that in an age of chaos and competition, India rises not as a hegemon, but as a harmonizer for the entire world, a nation that wields ethics as its armor and humanity as its weapon. As Vishwaguru, India's destiny is to transform power into peace and the interest into interdependence. Thank you so much. Namaste.